is Jordan Square, Delara, Elizabeth, and me, Harshdeep Singh. We're going to talk about the following agendas, which is who is Jeff Weiner, Jeff Weiner's leadership qualities and styles, Jeff Jeff's three pillars of effective leadership, Jeff's highlights and achievements, and conclusion. On February 21, 1970, Jeff Weiner was born in New York, United States. He received the Bachelor of Science in Economics from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania in 1992. The James Beard Foundation board member Lester Weiner, who has been married to the LinkedIn CEO since 2014, is a member, and they both have two kids. Jeff Weiner, he's a vast leader. He developed the first business model for Warner Bros. Online while serving as vice president of the studio. For prestigious venture capital companies Essel and Greylock Partners, he served as an executive in residence. He's a philanthropist too. Due to his 14 million stock incentive donation to the LinkedIn employee pool when the stock price fell, Weiner attracted public attention. His achievements: he's one of the top CEOs in the US. One among the top 10 CEOs of the US, Weiner was named as at US tech companies by LinkedIn workers in the annual survey conducted by Glassdoor. US overall winners of EY Entrepreneur of the Year award. He won that award for the United States as a whole in 2011. Now I over to Delara.
Thanks, Arshit. I'm going to talk about his leadership style and qualities. So in 2001, Jeff moved to Silicon Valley as a Yahoo executive and was known as intense and strict manager. He used to become irritated when others did things differently than Jeff did them. He wasn't using active listening techniques. He used to ask so many questions and overwhelm the team with those questions if anything in the presentation didn't make sense to him. He began to see that his approach to leading the team was unproductive. The book that gave him a better understanding of leadership qualities was The Art of Happiness. In that book, the word compassionate was illustrated in a way that changed his insight forever. Jeff defines compassion as an action combined with empathy. This means that you should act as if you are experiencing the other person's feelings, such as their pain, and use all of your strengths to attempt to put an end to that pain. From that day, Jeff tried to lead his teams compassionately. He describes managing compassionately as a better way of building a company, not only a better way of build a team. Compassionate leadership means trying to find your team members' desires and interests and doing everything in your power to help them reach to that position and help them to be successful. It means knowing team members' strengths and weaknesses, knowing their fears and feel their feelings as you own them and trying to enhance the positive points and put an end to negative ones. And according to Aurora, warmth is caring about your team members. An example of this compassionate leadership of Jeff would seen in his way of handling conflict. Consider a meeting which you as a manager have a precise agenda and objective, and someone else come in the meeting with other kind of objectives. Tension may create, and your coworker can get angry at you, and your empathic response would be getting angry. And you can make each other feel insecure and insulted. This is not a way to have a successful meeting, and instead you can manage the situation compassionately. How? You should understand the reason for being in that meeting, which is not having an argument with your team member. You should try to understand his feeling and put yourself in their shoes and try to understand the reason of frustration by asking them what happened in the meeting that triggered the situation. And you have to mention that creating this environment was not your intention. That will build a positive connection and a culture of trust and showing your team members you care about them and you're helping them. Team members can be highly committed to work as long as they feel their leaders care about them, their well-being, and their growth opportunities. Other aspect is fairness. Compassionate leaders understand that different people do things differently, and it's okay. It's not just one way of correctly doing things. And by knowing each member's weakness and strengths, a leader can give every member uh, of their team the support that they need to do their work. Being a compassionate leader is about giving feedback that open your team members' eyes up to the things that they need to change to improve. Compassionate leadership doesn't mean not reacting to team members not fitting in a position. And because pair of compassion the strategy, if you do that, they can get angry, and your compassionate response would be getting angry yourself, being unhappy yourself. No, it's not the meaning of compassionate leadership. For example, even doing things like firing can be done compassionately in a fair way. One of the least compassionate things you can do is let the person stay in a role where they do not fit. Jeff mentioned such a thing. And he said that often people who have been let go eventually come back and say it was the best thing that happened to us for our career. By being compassionate, you're helping them to find a position which they feel comfortable with, which they can handle in your own organization or in different companies. In that way, you are helping them, and you are relieving them from that stress and being burnt out. This is compassion. Now I can hand it over to my team member Jordan.
Thank you, Delara. Now, for this segment, we will be looking at and trying to fine tune what is Jeff's leadership style. Now, upon my initial research, I found it very difficult to pinpoint or narrow him down into one style, whether autocratic, democratic, laissez faire, and so forth. So, how can we encapsulate or compress Jeff's leadership style? Well, let's start off by saying what he is not. Jeff is definitely not autocratic. An autocratic leadership, this is also referred to like an author, an authoritarian leadership style or government or management, right? He is Jeff does not have a lot of these or majority of these characteristics. How about laissez-faire? Um, you can make an argument, but ultimately he still does not fall under this category as laissez-faire approach includes where executives do their work and trust everyone to do theirs as well. But on the flip side, Jeff still has a very big hand in the decisions that are being made. So I would not pinpoint him to laissez-faire. So then it leads us to the three that I have up on the screen. So democratic, what are some characteristics of a democratic leader? A democratic leader has, under democratic leadership, you find high employee engagement. There are a lot of opportunities for brainstorming. Under this form of leadership, you normally see an increase in job satisfaction. People feel valued. Decisions can be slow to make, but this is because everyone values and input and ideas is valued. All right. So now we all move on to servant leadership. Now, what are some characteristics of servant leadership? A servant leader is someone who is good at listening. They're empathetic, they're aware, they're persuasive, they conceptualize, they have foresight, stewardship. All of these characteristics that I have just listed out fall under Jeff's qualities and characteristics. Now that brings us to transformational. It is very fair and common to think or say that Jeff has a lot of these qualities. Now, if you have seen what he has done from his 11 years tenure at LinkedIn, it is easy to see and say that he is a transformational leader. He has totally transformed, reformed, and changed the trajectory of LinkedIn, the company, right? So if there is one if there is one form of leadership style that you can say completely captures Jeff, then this would have to be a visionary leader. Now, as a visionary leader, what are some characteristics of a visionary leader? They're open-minded, they're innovative, imaginative, bold, collaborative. They're very good at communication, goal-oriented, well-organized, inspirational. These are the words, characteristics, and many other that Jeff embodies. And now we'll move on to the next slide. During my research, I have made some key observations. Now, the first one we will look at is Jeff had donated 40 million in stock bonuses in 2016 to assist LinkedIn employees after a 40% drop in the company's share price. Now, this observation clearly depicts, clearly depicts Jeff's servant leadership qualities, where he is serving the ones that he is leading, right? So even though he's the leader, he is still serving the ones below him, his employees. Now, another observation that I have made was during his tenure, Jeff was all at LinkedIn. Jeff had grew the company's membership base from 33 million to 690 million members, increased the revenue from 78 million to more than 7.9 billion, and has expanded the team exponentially from 338 to over 16,000 employees. Now, this observation captures and embodies servant leadership, of visionary, transformational. As you can see, the numbers are that of a transformational leader, and many more, and also democratic. Now, here ends my presentation, and I will now pass on to Elizabeth.
So next, I'm going to discuss about Jeff Weiner's idea of what makes a great leader. In the next slide, Jeff has created 3 pillars of effective leadership. He believes that these 3 qualities is what makes a great leader: awareness, synthesis, and inspiration. In the next slide, I'm going to go into a little bit detail with you and break them down as to what each one represents. So awareness. Jeff finds that most effective leaders have tremendous sense of awareness. They are aware of the world around them. They are aware, of their industry and competitive landscape. They are aware of the strengths and weaknesses of people that they work with. They are setting people up to be successful with using their strengths. They are coaching them in areas of improvement, and most importantly, they are, self-aware. The second pillar is synthesis. As a leader, while being aware of your surroundings, there will be a lot of information coming at you. So how do you separate the signals from the noise? You have to make time to connect the dots and figure out what matters and what doesn't matter. You have to have a clear understanding of what is that you're trying to accomplish, how you're trying to accomplish it, and use that information to accomplish your objectives and your goals. And you should do this in the most productive, effective, and efficient way. He provided an example of building technology. You have all this information, all this data. What are you going to do with this data and how you're going to utilize it? Which brings me to the last pillar, inspiration, which is really about the scale. How do you scale the information you have out to everyone? You as an individual person has all this info coming at you, and you're collecting the information and framing it in a way that allows you to be effective, that allows you to effectively communicate to others so other people can take action, and then inspiring them to do so. These pillars are great. These are all needed to be an effective leader, but I think he should have added ethics as part of his pillars. Next slide. Although it aligns with awareness, having it added to one of his pillars can add more value. Ethics involves judgment about the rightness and wrongness of human behavior. Ethics outlines standards of behavior that are important, to the organization's core values and ideas. Therefore, influencing management at every step of decision making and establishing baseline for all your relationships internally and externally within an organization. Ethical leadership builds upon ethics. It is the ability to motivate, influence, and enable others through ethical sound thinking. Communication, interpersonal relations, behavior, reinforcement, and decision making make some of the things that need to work together to achieve a common morality acceptable purpose. I think that he should add this part to his pillars of effective leadership. Ethical leadership is about leading, inspiring, motivating, and making the employees feel accountable for their work. When this happens, greater business success is achievable because employees are happier to be at work. If ethical leaders can influence results, then they can equally influence workplace culture. Now I'm going to hand it over to Harshdeep for the conclusion.
Our leader has too many achievements, so we're going to talk about a few more in the conclusion. Before joining Microsoft owned LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner worked as a senior executive at Warner Brothers and Yahoo, respectively. He joined Yahoo in 2001 and served in key leadership positions at organization for more than 7 years. At Warner Bros., he joined as the vice president, where he helped develop its initial business strategies for almost 6 years. Moreover, he served as an executive in residence for venture capital firms Greylock Partners and SL. Weiner joined the LinkedIn Corporation as interim president on December 15, 2008. Next year, he was appointed as the CEO when he established a team called Bizops. What motivates us? His clarity of vision. So when it comes to inspiration, the way he always thought about it, again, rule of three, always got to be the rule of three, right? Is first, foremost, the clarity of your vision, understanding what is that you are trying to accomplish, where you are trying to make the team and the company. The second is the courage of your convictions, and this comes back to what we just talked about, which is believing in what is that you are trying to accomplish with everything you have got at a deep, visceral, fundamental level, having that courage. So, two halves to a whole. You can see how it all worked out, and I encourage all of you, if you haven't taken the time to think about what you ultimately want to accomplish and the impact that you want to have on the world, to drill down deep and ask yourself, what is your vision? What is your impact you want to have? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Because it's all going to make a difference as a leader. Now, following are the lessons learned. To be good leader, you need to be a good servant too. Self-awareness, being aware of the strength and weaknesses for the people you work with. Self-awareness is not just your interaction with other people, it's also about being in the moment, the ability to be more mindful, the ability to be a spectator of your own thoughts and building trust. Next slide, please. And we are now ready for Q&A, and following are the references. Thank you.